I've been doing this for 29 years. Anybody do investments? You guys do investments at all? Stocks, bonds? It's very tricky out there. There's a couple of movies out there called The Big Short. There's a movie out there called Inside Job, which is a documentary. And what it teaches you is that Wall Street, a lot of the money managers out there, they don't care about you. They'll tell you anything. It's worse than, they'll lie, cheat, steal, just get your money. So you gotta be very, very careful. When you do investing, what I try to tell people, thank you, my brother.
It's very ethical.
Thank you. And I'm very ethical. Slow and steady wins the race. You don't want to pay a lot of taxes. If you're starting out, the biggest thing that you really need is an emergency fund. And I don't care if it's just in a bank, but an emergency fund. You want to have a nice chunk of change, so if you need the water heater, if the car breaks down, you have money you don't have to borrow. What you got to do when you're young, especially when you're first starting out, I would tell you to make sure that you have a great disability policy. You want to really ensure your income, your ability to earn money is your biggest asset. And it doesn't have to be expensive. So I'll give you some, hey, TJ, if you can, inside that box, there's something on there about disability insurance and a white brochure. Just bring me 4 of those, please. No, brochure had it with. So you want to insure your income. The other thing you want to do very, very nice when you're young, you want to get a life insurance policy. Even if you don't have anybody that's married to, or you don't have any children. What they tell you is you don't need life insurance when you're young because you have nobody depending on you. And I tell them, like, what? You don't have parents? You don't have brothers? You don't have sisters? You don't have cousins? You don't have a philanthropy, some kind of foundation you might want to leave? At 30 years old, 25, you get $1 million policy at $400 a year. Why wouldn't I want to get a policy? And by the way, and I've seen this now for over 30 years, if you can pass a medical today, you guys are in the field, you might not be able to pass a medical 5 years from today, 10 years from today. I hate to say it, but I was a lot more healthy when I was 30 than when I was 50. Still feel good, but I'm not as healthy. My cholesterol's up, diabetes can come up, you can have high blood pressure, you can have medical issues come up anytime, so you want to at least get the policy when you can when you're young. And like I told my parents, I was 26 years old when I got my first policy. Something happens, my parents are going to cry. Go cry in Hawaii. Seriously, I wanted to take care of it. It wasn't expensive. Now, again, philanthropy, you can start a foundation. Even though you're 25, 30 years old, we're not married, don't have kids, doesn't mean we don't have responsibilities.
So with the foundation, so if I did want to start a philanthropy foundation, what would be the smartest approach to start?
Well, again, if you have a life insurance policy, the beneficiary, so you have a $1 million policy. $500,000 goes to mom and dad. $500,000 goes to the charity of your choice. And God forbid if something happens, and that charity, you designate that it goes into it in your name, and they give 5% out for the rest of the next 10, 20, 30 years. So like I saw a person once that said, and again, it was a great little thing. So-and-so died 10 years ago, but today she's still going to feed, and they named all the animals that she was going to feed for the ASPCA. It was beautiful. It was really, really nice. So again, you want to do protection. You want to make sure that you have your malpractice insurance. You want to make sure, because you're young doctors, that you have what's called, if you have a car, or if you have a home, you want what's called an umbrella policy. So if you're leaving this seminar right now, saying, wow, this guy Mark was fantastic. I can't believe they put him on last. And boy, he should have been first and in front of everybody. And you get into a car accident. If you get sued, remember, they can go after your salary, they can go after your income, they can go after your net worth. So an umbrella policy is something that covers above and beyond what your auto insurance will cover. Very cheap. $1 million policy, again, it's like $350 a year. You want to protect you, just want to protect yourself. Disability, life insurance, an emergency fund for savings. This is just the basic stuff. Then, once you're starting putting money away, then you can start to invest. And then what you have to decide is when you go to invest, do you do it in a pension plan, inside, outside, pros and cons. There is no mystical, magical thing, but I will tell everybody one thing. If you're going to invest money, do it with something that you know, not what somebody's telling you to go and invest in. Because if it was that good, they'd do it themselves. So let's say you're on Facebook every day, 3 times a day. You know what you might want to invest in? Facebook. Seriously, my kid plays Activision. He's on the Modern Warfare. 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old, all day long. Him and all his friends. On Guitar Hero, all day long. Did you know there's a stock called Activision? Started at $14 a share, it's up to $35 now. Yeah, my daughter, Coach bags, a bunch of Coach bags. I went to the mall, there was a line for women buying Coach bags. True story, the woman in front of me was buying a Coach collar for her dog for $120. You know what I did the next day? I bought Coach stock. Things you know, and it's done very well. I mean, eventually you have to sell them, but things that you know. If somebody calls you up or a broker calls you up and he has a hot idea, just don't do it. You know, unless they're doing it themselves. You see, show me how much you own, and very rarely will they have that. Same thing, if you're buying a life insurance policy, you're buying a disability policy, you know, it's not amateur hour. It's just like you're gone through a lot of education, and it's unfortunate in my business, but a lot of people can get a license very, very quickly. You want somebody who's educated. You want somebody that has some experience. You want somebody that's not in between jobs and trying it out, or a cousin, hey, I just started. They're not going to be around. And they might tell you something that is going to make them more commissions than what's better for you because their sales manager is telling them what to do. So look for somebody who's qualified, somebody who's educated, somebody who has qualifications. And again, unfortunately in my business, I'm a certified financial planner. It's the same thing as being a certified public accountant. It's a 2-year, 10-hour rigorous exam. I need 60 hours of continuing education credits every 2 years. You can get a certified senior advisor over the weekend, and nobody will know the difference. And it's a shame. It's a shame. So you want to deal with somebody who's experienced. You want to deal with somebody that you have a good gut feeling too. If you're sitting down with somebody, they come to your office and you don't have a good gut feeling, move on. But again, slow and steady. You know, they tell you when you're young, you can take a lot of risk. What I've learned is you're young, don't take any risk, just don't lose it. Again, slow and steady. The other thing you really want to worry about is taxes. You want to mitigate taxes. Now, I'll leave you with this one because I know it's 5:30. I'm going to leave everybody, you know, going. But that doesn't mean defer taxes. It means mitigate. There's a big, big difference. Can I utilize you for a second? Sure. 25 years ago, when we started putting money away, right? Because we could start talking about this. Do you remember what the highest tax bracket was 25 years ago? Highest. If you were making $400,000, $700,000 a year, it's almost 25%.
That before Reagan got that?
That was before Reagan cut.
Sorry, that was 70.
Well, it was 70. When Reagan came, it was 70 once you made over $1 million. But one of the highest brackets, again, when IRA started, was 25%. And by the way, all these tax deductions, all the kids were living at home. You had a mortgage payment. Today, most of my elderly clients, 55 and above, they have $2-3 million in a pension plan because they've been putting money away since they were 25, 30 years old. But now they have no tax deductions, the mortgage is paid, the kids are out of the house, and guess what? They're in a higher tax bracket today than they were when they were putting the money away. Because the law's changed. And a lot of the accountants out there, as good as they may be, their idea is to save you money today in your taxes, not 20, 25 years. In fact, what I see with a lot of my clients, they're not even touching their money because they don't want it, they don't need it. They have to wait till they're 70 years old, and they have to take what's called required minimum distributions. You really should look at this for your parents because it's crazy. And then what happens if one of them passes away? Now they're filing a single instead of jointly. Now you're even in a higher tax bracket. And then when you pass on, you go to leave it to your kids. What a lot of people are saying is that, you know, again, the taxes are incredible. So there's deferral, and there's just paying them and getting rid of them. I tell a lot of my youngest clients right now, I'd rather see you own a building and put money in a pension plan. And it's different if you're in a pension plan and somebody's putting money away for you, or you own a practice and you got to put money away for everybody else. Very costly. Doesn't make it right or wrong. And by the way, the best thing to do 25 years from today, nobody knows. You got to do a little bit of everything. But just be conservative, watch the taxes, protect yourself. Put a moat around your castle. Life insurance, disability insurance, umbrella policy, malpractice. So
Can you talk
great
about-
question, where do you
can talk
start?
about the difference between a fee-based planner versus a commission?
Sure. You have fee-based and you have commission planners too. And by the way, pros and cons to both. I've seen good ones on fees. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm a registered investment advisor. I can do either way. It's interesting, but as a planner, I can actually make more money charging fees than a commission. But they only tell you, go to a fee-based, go to a fee-based. What happens when you do a fee-based, I put together a plan for you, and then I charge you, let's say, 1% for my advice. And then what happens is I get 1% of that each and every year. So if my advice is correct, and your 100,000 goes to 200,000, I'm making $2,000 a year. If it goes to $500,000, I'm making $5,000 a year. If it goes to $1 million, I'm making 10. I get paid on that every year as a fee base, and my job is to make sure I'm on the same side of the table. Educate you, train you, make sure you understand what's going on, and move your investments around based on your risk tolerance, based on your taxes. A commission-based person gets paid once and one time only on the product that they sell you. And then they usually never get paid again. Unfortunately, most people that are in a commission-based product are not ethical, or they're not experienced, and they'll sell you something, they'll shake your hand, and you'll never see them again. But if you can find a person, what I tell my clients is this: there's been many clients, when I started this 20, 25 years ago, where I got them into a mutual fund, or I got them into a life policy, or I got them into annuity. I got paid once, one time. And their investments have grown from 200,000 to $1 million. I got paid on that 200,000. I never got paid on the increments, but I still meet with them every year. I still take care of them every year. And the reason why I do that is because I get referrals from them every year. You really want somebody who gets paid once, one time only, but does what they say they're going to do and stay in the business and take care of you. Hard to find now. Believe me, I'm telling you, I'm a rarity. Most people come in and out. Fee-based plans, I've seen a lot of people that talk about fees, but they also have, unfortunately, a product in mind, and that's a fee-based product. Well, I'm going to put you in a model, we're going to manage the managers, we'll do all this stuff, but they're still getting into a kind of a product type thing. And then there's people that just will come in and they'll charge you on an hourly basis. Come in, I'll charge you, I'll tell you what to do, and this is what I think you should do, and then they'll leave. The good thing about that is that you're paying for advice, and you're hoping they're steering you right. The bad thing about it is most people are very lazy, and it never gets implemented. So I'll tell clients, listen, you need a will, you need a trust, you need a power of attorney. You're married, you just bought a $5 million life insurance policy, and you're leaving the beneficiary to your 3 kids, 6, 3, and 1. They can't handle that. Now, as a fee-based person, I charge for the fee, and I told them what to do, and I move on. Being a commission-based person, I make sure it gets taken care of. In fact, I just had a doctor the other day. I love Sharon. She's a pulmonologist, and I put her in she came to the office, got her in the car, made the appointment with her to go to the lawyer's office, drove her to the lawyer's office, talked about her practice that she was in, because she was just going into a new practice, and they had this new agreement, made sure the lawyer looked over the agreement, the life insurance, the power of attorney, made sure it was done for her. It was implemented. So you can have the best plan in the world. If it's not implemented, it can go away. So again, good financial planners, bad financial planners. Good fee-based, bad fee-based. Good stocks, bad stocks. Good commission. There is nothing out there that's magical. I've told all my clients, and what I've seen personally, every one of my wealthy clients have made money one of 2 ways 90% of the time. In their own practice and real estate. Very few bought stocks and they became millionaires.
What was the second one?
Real estate. Owning your own office, owning your own condominium, owning residential properties, shopping centers. Yeah, without leveraging it out, but yeah, real estate. Or your own practice. You'll make money in your own practice. Getting a partner, making it a bigger practice.
With financial advisors, I'm not sure if that's the same as financial planning, but I think there's like a fiduciary versus some other type.
Right. So the fiduciary is the RA, Registered Investment Advisory. What the fiduciary is saying is that they act in your own best interest first, where a commission type product is just going to sell a product. But there's a lot of commission-based products that, guys, that still sell what's best for you. The fee-based product sounds good.
So that's really the fee-based.
Right, it's a fee-based product. But again, I've seen a lot of fee-based planners, in my office even included. In 2000, they got crushed. In 2008, they got crushed. And even though they're charging a fee and they're on the same side as the table as the client, they don't know what's going to happen with the stock market. They just don't get it. So again, a lot of it has to do with beliefs. There's a lot of different products out there. I'm very skeptical when it comes to the stock market. And I believe me, I have a lot of money in stocks. But I got a lot of money in cash. I got a lot of money in annuities. I got money in the pension plan. I have a Roth. I have a pre-tax. I have real estate. It's just having a little bit of everything.
Is there like a minimum amount that you would recommend that you definitely keep in your savings account before you start investing in
Great
properties
question.
and everything else?
Yeah. My minimum account, and again, you hear from fee-based planners and fiduciaries and stuff like that. I'm sure you might have heard 3 to 6 months. I like 2 to 3 years. I'm more conservative. But if I become disabled, if I get hurt, if my wife gets sick and I got to stay home, if I want to tell my boss, you know what? I want 2, 3 years. And I don't care if I'm not making a lot of money. Always remember this. And again, for you young kids, I got to tell you, I don't care if you have a lot of money in cash sitting in the bank. Every decade, or maybe a little bit sooner, you ever hear the expression cash is king? Meaning that the people that have the cash can buy things at a discount because everything else fell apart. In 2008, Warren Buffett, probably one of the best stock pickers in the world, had over $41 billion with it being cash. In 2008, when all the market crashed, that's when he bought stock. He lent $5 billion to Goldman Sachs. He lent $5 billion to GE. He lent $5 billion to all these companies that were going bankrupt. All these fee-based fiduciary type companies, and General Electric, because he had the cash on hand. And even though that cash sat there making 1%, really not making a lot compared to everybody else, when everything else crashed 40, 50%, that 1% was there, that he made 200, 300%, because he had the money, they had the opportunity. You have a neighbor getting divorced, they have a house, they want to get rid of it real quick. Well, you have to go get a mortgage, because all your money's invested. I got cash. I can close in 30 days. Let's get you out of the house, away from your crazy husband, and let me buy the house. I just made more money because the cash was there. So I like 2, 3 years. And that might take you 5 years to do that. So again, rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months. I like 1 to 3 years. It just makes me feel more comfortable. Plus the fact, again, counterintuitive.
Like two years of what? Your
So let's say you're making
salary or-
$200,000 a year.
Okay.
I think you should have $400,000 in cash. Yeah. And the nice thing about that, with my cash position, that if the stock market falls tomorrow, and believe me, it's going to fall eventually because it's been going up for the last 5, 6, 7 years since 2008, and I can't tell you why, but I got a lot of money in the stock market. When the market goes down, a lot of people panic. I don't have to panic. You know why? I got 2, 3 years worth of cash. I can leave it alone. In fact, I can even add more to it. People have 2, 3 months, they get scared. Stock market goes down 20, 30%. I had 200,000, now I only have 140, I'm selling. And that's the problem with a lot of financial advice. It's based on mathematical equations and averages, but most people, in fact, I'd say almost everybody, they base it on emotions. And emotions, you can't, emotions are totally different. You know, you take a look at, I'll leave you with this before we go, averages. You take a look at an average. The Dow Jones Industrial Average. An average is like you take the Dow Jones and it shows you like over the last 10, 20, 30 years, if you left the money in the stock market, you would have averaged 9%. I'll leave you with 2 things. Out of the 30 Dow Jones Industrial Averages, the original 30 stocks, anybody have any idea how many is still left? This is good. 1, General Electric. Because they take the old ones out, the ones that are losing money, and they put new stocks in. How is that real? And by the way, General Electric pre-2008 was $60 a share. General Electric today is 31. So, I mean, still 50%. Averages. Again, over 30 years. Well, again, and you guys are really young in this, but in the 90s, the stock market had what's called a technology bubble. This thing was, the stock market was doing 25, 20% every year for 9 years. But that's because there was nobody's telling people you can't do things wrong. There was, it was horrible. And when the market correct, but that's embedded in the averages. My wife and I, on the average, each week, on the average as a couple, we run 10 miles. She runs 20, I run nothing. But if I want to average it out as a couple, I'm running. I can take averages and make them look anything. And it's important that you understand how we're doing it. As funny as it sounds, averages mean absolutely nothing. So, got to do what's comfortable for you. Got to make sure you have a home. Got to make sure you have an emergency fund. You want to protect yourself. Again, very important. If you don't have it, the life, the disability, umbrella policies, the major malpractice, those are the things that can make you lose everything in a matter of moments. Then you want to save. Again, 3 to 6 months, what everybody else says. I like 1 to 3 years. And by the way, this is important. As you get older and the more wealth you accumulate, the more emergency fund you want to have. Kind of like have a foundation in the house. If you don't have a strong foundation, it can crack. And the bigger the house, the bigger the foundation. So which one do you do? Just do it all. Just be smart. And remember, again, when you do something and you go to invest, make sure you understand it. If you don't understand it, don't do it. If somebody's coming to you, and again, right now, the best you can do in a bank is 1%. If somebody's offering, and this is for your parents. And by no sense, even for your parents. I'm sitting down with people that are 70 years old right now. If they had $1 million in the bank 5 years ago, and got a 5-year CD, they were making 5%. They're making $50,000 a year. Today, that CD is coming due, and they're making 1%. So their income went from $50,000 to $10,000. That's a problem. So what the bank is telling them, or even some fee-based, or even some commission-based, saying, oh, you need to make 5%, I'm going to put you in these what's called high-yield bonds. So the same $1 million will get you 5%. Show you how Wall Street works. Anybody know another name besides high-yield bonds?
Junk bond.
Junk bonds. Now, if I told you it was a junk bond, what would you tell me? I ain't buying that junk. But if I tell you it's high yield, oh, it's so interesting. And these are the words. That's why if you haven't seen the movie The Big Short, it's a phenomenal movie. And then if you really like The Big Short, there's a documentary called Inside Job. It'll blow your mind. And I thought I knew 85% of what was on that documentary. The other 15% blew my mind. It's scary. So scary. So I'm seeing the older clientele, they're getting hooked into buying things that they shouldn't be buying longer term. And when they pass on, when we inherit it, we're getting crushed. So again, be careful what your parents are doing. Find out who you ask them, and that's hard because some parents don't want to tell you. Some parents want to share. Some parents, well, what do you think? I'm going to die. You can't wait to get my money. I mean, I've seen it all. But it's important to watch out. There's some scary things out there, and there's some good and slow and steady things. And that doesn't mean that you can't have 5% of your money in junk bonds, but not 75%. Make sense? Sound good?
Can you talk about the difference between a employer-provided disability
Disability plan?
plan
Yeah.
versus an individual-owned
great.
plan?
Do you have those brochures? Okay, so let's take a look at the disability. You have another one of those? You only had to give out 5 and you only give out 4? I love them.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, okay. Sit. You're fine. So when you get a disability plan and you own the disability plan, if it's a good plan, and by the way, that's a very generic portfolio. There's only a couple of companies out here. It's what's called ONOC. Done. I got it. It's called ONOC, your own occupation. There are some plans out there that say ENEOC, which is a big difference. So you can't do what you're doing, but you can work somewhere else, maybe as a professor. Some plans will still pay you, some won't, because you're back at work. When you have your own individual disability insurance, whatever you pay for it when you're young and you start it out, the price is locked in if it's a good plan. It doesn't go up. A lot of employer-paid plans, they'll pay for it, but if you become disabled, the income is taxable. This is all tax-free. A lot of other plans, I just sat down with the executive the other day, he's making about $700,000 a year, God bless him. Doctor making a tremendous amount of money, very smart, been doing it for 25, 30 years. He's running a foundation, a lot of money. he had a group disability plan that paid 60% of his salary. But what he didn't know is that the salary was capped at $5,000 a month. So he didn't realize, he thought he was getting 60%. Some of them are capped at 5,000, some are capped at 10. So you gotta be careful. Group plans are very inexpensive. Individual plans are gonna be a little bit more expensive, but they're yours, they're portable. Which one's better? They're both good. But you wanna get your own first. If you have your own individual plan, and then you go to work someplace and they put a group on top of it, that's fine. If you have a group, and then you go get an individual, the insurance company will say, wait, you already have a group plan, we can't give you as much as you want in an individual. So you really want to get that individual first. An individual, they have what's called a rider. So like right now, you might not be making a lot of money, but they have what's called riders, future increase option, FIO. And so you can get right now a very basic $2,000 a month policy, but if you go to make $100,000, $200,000 a year, you can increase it without a medical exam. In fact, some of the really good disability policies out right now, and this we really got to get in the plans for the younger ones, the residents and interns, they'll actually pay for your student loans if you become disabled. I mean, I sit there with young, 100, 200,000, just one had, he's phenomenal. I mean, he's smart, but he had $335,000 in student loans, 2 kids, and a Porsche. I'm like, what are you doing? I deserve this. Yeah, all right, I hear you, but oh my gosh, stop. But his student loans, and it's very inexpensive. I'm telling you, student loans, I think we got him a policy was like $202 a month for almost like $10,000 a month of disability plan that would take care of his student loans. Very inexpensive. Got to be done.
So his loans are currently getting paid off by the insurance?
No, if you became
Okay,
disabled.
okay.
See, because if you become disabled, you still got to pay them.
Yeah.
You're still responsible for them. Somebody has to pay that. The insurance company kicks in and they pay it.
Okay.
If you own a home and you got a $4,000 a month mortgage and you got to buy, and it's amazing, the expenses today when it comes to the mortgage, the cable, the phones for the kids, you need something coming in each and every month to make sure that you don't have to move out of your home. And that's what the disability policies are doing. And then if you go to work for a hospital, they'll put a group plan on top of it, which is nice. Definitely get your own ASAP.
So the employer benefit would be taxable versus an individual plan.
Right.
And an employer, once you leave, you would have to requalify.
Yeah,
for
it's
new
some,
coverage
most of
if
them are
you
not
can't-
portable. You have to go get another medical, and it's based at your age, and of course, it's based on your medical condition. Some employee plans, though, when I get involved with them, I try to make sure, especially executives, there's a way to make them kind of where they'll 1099 them for the disability portion of it that they're paying as a group. As long as they pay taxes on it, they can go out and they can make that tax-free. So there's even a way to go around that also, but again, it's rare.
Southwest on Poplar Boulevard towards South Michigan.
Yeah, it's okay.
But if you're an employee going to a new job, you then will have to requalify for either their plan maybe, or if you want to get one then, depending on your health.
Depending on your health and your age, correct. If you go to a new employer, they usually have a group, they'll let you write in. Sometimes you'll get that, but they might, they might write her out if you have a pre-existing condition.
Now, is the best case then to ask your employer, instead of providing a group plan, to give you the premium that they would have paid, so you can buy your own premium
If you
plan?
can get that, definitely. So but again, the individual plan is going to be a lot more expensive than a group. But even if you get that little bit and they help subsidize that by 20, 30%, I'd rather have an individual plan. Safer. You're very, very welcome. Have a good day.
Are there riders for home payoffs?
Yeah, there's riders for payoffs in a group. There's riders for home payoffs. But that's a life insurance. But the disability policy, well, say it's $5,000 a month and your mortgage is $3,000. As long as you're disabled, that money comes in to help pay that mortgage each and every month. It's so important, especially when you're young. The younger kids in here, the residents, especially with the student loans, very, very inexpensive and has to be done. I'm done. I mean, unless you guys have any other particular questions.
Thank you.
right?
Yeah, I just, I actually help with the financial advisor, but if you wanted to switch, how do you?
Well, two things. And again, just like the difference between a public account and a certified public, first of all, make sure they're certified.
Yeah,
Make sure, again, you can do what's called broker check, you can put their name in, and anytime you want to switch, you can just call up the new certified financial planner you're dealing with and say, look, I want to move what I have here
yeah.
with you. But a good one would say, well, before we do that, let's do a risk tolerance. Let's see if you really understand what you own, the pros and the cons. And when you move it over, that doesn't mean you have to sell it. You might have some really good positions. It's not, getting all or nothing. You might say, well, look, these things are good, this one's good, this stuff. Leave it alone, and we can work on the rest. But you can always move. There should be no problem at all with that at all. Hopefully it's with me? No. But again, it's interesting. You should always allow them. Just like if you're going from one doctor to another, all you need is the records. And you sign a little form, and the records come on over. Have any other questions, or?
I did have a question. When you recommended 1 to 2 years revenue, that's very different than the normal 6 months of expenses.
Correct. Correct. Again, just as my positions grew in life, and as my income grew, as my investment portfolio grew, I like having that 1 to 2 years worth of salary. Because I've seen some strange things happen over the last 30 years. I've seen people that were doing so well. And I can tell you, from illnesses to divorces to kids coming home because they got divorced, it's just horror stories. And the ones that had the cash on hand, it was just weathered. It was just weathered. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be invested prudently in a low duration bond fund. Again, it's still cash, but it has to be liquid. You have to be able to get to it. Where if the stock market falls 35%, your position didn't fall 35%. So yeah, it is a little different. But I think it's just stronger. The bigger the foundation, the bigger the stronger it is. That doesn't mean if a hurricane comes, you're not going to lose a little bit of the roof, and the windows aren't going to bust, but the house isn't going to fall. I've seen so many people, a lot of wealthy people, the whole house falls because everything's invested. Or even real estate's great, but everything's, in a shopping center. What if that doesn't go? So you got to be careful of leverage. So yeah, a little different. And by the way, a lot of my cash, a lot of my different things too, are also in some kind of, again, mutual life insurance companies. There are only like about half a dozen of them. Northwestern, Guardian, Mass Mutual, New York Life. These are companies that have been around since 1850s. I mean, strong. They've been through, these policies are making, 3%. So again, it's guaranteed, it's there. I can use it in cash if I need it. If not, it goes to my family. I mean, it does 2 or 3 jobs at once. But that's part of my cash position. It's just working smarter than in a bank. So you can still have it invested, but just very prudently. It's not there to make money. It's there just to be there in case I need it. And by the way, I hope I never need it. But if I do, I have no worries. Thank you all. I want to thank everybody. Hey!